Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to 2025. The champagne has been popped, the fireworks have now faded, and here we are in a brand new year. But let me ask you something. Have you set your goals yet? Are they big enough? Or are you holding back because you're worried they're maybe just a little too ambitious, a little too unrealistic, or dare I say, maybe a little crazy for you? But let's be honest, New Year's resolutions are a ritual for most of us. But here's the brutal truth. Most resolutions, they don't make it to February, right? And it's not because we're lazy or incapable, it's because most of us set goals without a mindset to really back it up, without a clear why, without the hunger, and without the willingness to really take the bold action that's needed. And if there's one person who knows how to dream big, take action, and turn bold ideas into reality, it's a guy by the name of Gary Vaynerchuk. Now, maybe you don't know who Gary is, and let me give you just a quick rundown. Gary is an entrepreneur, a speaker, a social media mogul, and most importantly, a guy who walks the talk. This is the guy who has turned his family liquor store into a $60 million business, built VaynerMedia, a digital marketing agency working with brands like PepsiCo and General Electric, became one of the most influential voices in entrepreneurship, inspiring millions through his books, keynotes, and online content. But here is the honest truth about Gary. Gary didn't start with millions. He started with hustle, vision, and a willingness to dream bigger than anyone thought possible. Gary's mindset isn't about chasing success. It's about chasing happiness. It's about building a life and business that really just excites you every single day. And that's what today's video is all about. You're gonna learn three key things. Number one, the hustle. Gary turned a small family liquor store into $60 million empire. Number two, the dream, how his outrageous goal, owning the New York Jets, fuels every decision he makes. And number three, the mindset, the three key shifts you need to make in 2025 to make it the most productive, fulfilling, and game-changing year of your life. So whether you're an entrepreneur, a content creator, or someone who just wants to stop surviving and move to thriving this year, this video is for you. And listen, this isn't going to be one of those fluffy motivational pep talks that leave you feeling great for maybe about 5 minutes and then fades away. No, we're going to get practical. We're going to get real. So grab your notebook, hit the like button, and let's dive into Gary V's mindset to make 2025 your year. Let's rewind the clock and start at the very beginning of Gary Vaynerchuk's story. Because here's the thing, we all see Gary today, the entrepreneur, the social media icon, the keynote speaker with millions of followers. But it's easy to forget where he started. Gary was born in 1975 in what was then the Soviet Union. His family lived in a tiny apartment in Belarus, and life wasn't exactly full of opportunities. In 1978, when Gary was just 3 years old, his parents made a bold decision. They packed up their lives and immigrated to the United States. Imagine that. You don't speak the language, you don't have money, and you're moving to a country where you know no one. But Gary's parents had hope, and they were willing to sacrifice everything for a better future for their children. They settled in Queens, New York, in a tiny studio apartment. Picture this, multiple family members crammed into a single room. Every dollar mattered, every expense was weighed carefully. But here's the beautiful thing about Gary's upbringing. He didn't grow up resenting what he didn't have. Instead, he focused on what he could build. Gary wasn't a straight A student. He didn't have academic accolades or special privilege, but what he did have was an entrepreneurial spark. At 7 years old, Gary started running a lemonade stand. And I'm not talking about your average lemonade setup, okay? Gary didn't just have one stand, he created a network of lemonade stands. He recruited neighborhood kids to run them. He trained them and then collected a cut of the profits. Even at 7, Gary understood scaling. He wasn't just a kid selling lemonade, he was building a lemonade empire. By the time he was a teenager, Gary discovered baseball cards. Now, here's where things get interesting. Baseball cards weren't just a hobby for Gary, they were a business. Every weekend, Gary would hit up baseball card conventions. He would buy low, sell high, and negotiate deals with laser focus. Some weekends, he would walk away with thousands of dollars in profit. But here's the kicker. It wasn't about the money. Gary said time and time again, it wasn't the cash that drove him, it was the game. The thrill of the negotiation, the excitement of spotting an opportunity, the satisfaction of creating value out of thin air. That mindset, that one right there, that drive to build, to solve a problem, and to hustle became the foundation for everything Gary would go and do. Now here's the lesson of Gary's early hustles, okay? Resourcefulness beats resources. Gary didn't have access to capital, mentors, or fancy tools. He used what was available, lemonade, baseball cards, and his own 2 hands to build something. His work ethic is non-negotiable, okay? Work ethic is non-negotiable. Gary wasn't afraid to work longer and harder than anyone else. While other kids were playing video games and hanging out at the mall, Gary was strategizing, negotiating, and selling. Now, third thing, passion over profit. For Gary, the game was always more important than the money. He enjoyed the process, and that fueled his work ethic and resiliency. Now here's where it gets even more powerful. Gary carried these lessons into adulthood. Fast forward to Gary's early 20s. After high school and a stint in college, Gary joined his family liquor store. At the time, it was called Shoppers Discount Liquors, and it was generating about $3 million a year in revenue. That's great. For most people, that's an impressive family business. A $3 million operation. That's the dream, right? Not for Gary. He looked at the liquor store and didn't see a ceiling. He saw potential. He saw a chance to innovate, disrupt, and build something far bigger than anyone could have imagined. But before we talk about how Gary turned the liquor store into a $60 million empire, let's talk about something deeper. Let's talk about Gary's mindset. Because while his strategies were brilliant, it was his mindset that made all the difference. Okay? Now here are the 3 key takeaways of Gary's mindset. Number 1, no excuses. Gary never let his circumstances define him. Immigrant kid, no money, no connections, none of it mattered. He focused on what he could control. Number 2, see opportunities where others see limits. While most people looked at lemonade stands and baseball cards as small-time hobbies, Gary saw business models. And number 3, play the long game. Even in his early years, Gary wasn't chasing quick wins. He was building skills, relationships, and knowledge that would serve him for life. These early lessons became non-negotiables for Gary's life. They became his core principles. And when he stepped into his family's liquor store, those principles were about to change everything. Gary Vaynerchuk's early life isn't just an inspiring story. It's a blueprint. A reminder that your start doesn't define your finish. You don't need millions of dollars, connections, and fancy degrees to build something extraordinary. You need hustle, patience, and the willingness to see opportunities where others see obstacles. So let's continue the story. In the late 1990s, Gary Vaynerchuk is in his early 20s, fresh out of college, and he joined his family liquor store business, Shoppers Discount Liquors. At the time, the store was pulling in about $3 million. And for most people, that's impressive. That's security. But Gary didn't see it that way. He didn't look at the store and think, how can I keep this going? No, Gary looked at it and said, how can I scale it into something that the world has never seen before? And that right there, that mindset is what separates people who maintain from people who transform. So how did he do it? How did he take a local liquor store and turn it into a $60 million powerhouse? So let me break it down here. First, let's set the scene. It's the late 1990s and the internet is still a little weird, experimental, right? Not a lot of things are happening in it yet. There's AOL, right? And most businesses were super skeptical about it. Websites were seen as unnecessary. E-commerce, that's a joke. But Gary saw something different. He realized that attention was shifting to online. And where attention goes, opportunity follows. So Gary made a bold move. He launched winelibrary.com. Now, today, an online store seems obvious, but back then, it was ridiculous and radical. Most liquor store owners thought he was wasting so much time and money, but Gary wasn't just launching a website. He was setting the stage for a revolution in retail. E-commerce before it was cool. Gary poured his energy into building an online platform where people could buy wine from anywhere in the country. Email marketing. Gary became obsessed with email lists. He started sending weekly newsletters and wine recommendations, exclusive deals, and personal notes. And then Google Ads. While other businesses were debating whether online advertising was worth it, Gary was dominating early in Google AdWord campaigns. The results? Sales exploded. People from all over the country started buying wine from his little New Jersey liquor store. But here's the thing, Gary wasn't just selling wine. He was building relationships. He was creating trust. And in business, trust is everything. But Gary wasn't done yet, right? In 2006, he started something that would change not just his business, but his brand. He launched a YouTube channel called Wine Library TV. Now, pause for a second. In 2006, YouTube wasn't what it is today. There were no influencers, no polished content creators, just people uploading random videos. But Gary saw an opportunity. Every day, he sat in front of a camera, grabbed a few bottles of wine, and started talking. But he didn't talk about wine like a fancy wine taster, right? No fancy jargon, no elitist vibe. Instead, Gary was himself. He used casual language that everybody could understand. He made jokes. He described wine in ways people could actually understand it. There's a famous moment where Gary compared a wine taste to smelling a handful of sweaty socks, right? We can relate to that stuff. It was raw, it was real, and people loved it. Wine Library TV became a sensation. Viewers weren't just learning about wine. They were connecting with Gary. They trusted him because he was authentic. And authenticity, right? Authenticity, that's the ultimate marketing strategy. But let's be clear, it wasn't easy for him. Gary made 1,000 episodes of Wine Library TV. He showed up every day whether he liked it or not. He didn't see instant results, but guess what? He kept going. And eventually, the combination of e-commerce and content marketing turned Wine Library into a $60 million juggernaut. Now let's talk about something that most people overlook, the work ethic behind all of this. Gary wasn't just a guy with good ideas. He was a guy who was willing to outwork everyone else. He talked openly about his schedule during the Wine Library years. 15 hours a day were the norm. He was personally replying to customer emails. He was creating content every single day. But here's the thing, Gary wasn't burning himself out for money. He was doing it because he loved the game. He loved building something from scratch. He loved connecting with customers. He loved seeing his vision come to life. And that's something most people miss out about the hustle. It's not about grinding yourself into the ground. It's about pouring your energy into something you genuinely care about. That's why Gary could work those crazy hours without losing his spark, because he was playing a game that he wanted to play. So what can we learn from Gary's wine library journey? Number one, see opportunities others ignore. While most liquor stores were stuck in old ways, Gary saw the internet as the future. Number two, content creates connection. Wine Library TV wasn't about selling wine, it was about connecting with customers. And number three, relentless execution beats perfect ideas. Gary didn't wait for the perfect website. He didn't wait for the perfect YouTube setup or the perfect strategy. He started, he adjusted, and he kept going. These lessons aren't just for entrepreneurs. They're for anyone who wants to make an impact. Whether you're building a business, starting a side hustle, or just trying to level up your career, Gary's story proves one thing: consistency and authenticity are unstoppable forces. Gary Vaynerchuk didn't just grow a business, he redefined what it means to market, connect, and build trust in the digital age. But here's the thing, the wine library story was just the beginning. In the next section, we're going to dive into Gary's audacious dream, owning the New York Jets, and how it fuels every decision he makes. This isn't just about football. It's about having a vision so bold it scares you. All right, we've talked about Gary's early hustle and how he transformed a small family liquor store into a $60 million powerhouse. But here's the thing, Gary's story didn't end with Wine Library, it only began there. And where he is today with VaynerMedia is also just this moment in time for him. Because behind every decision Gary makes, every business he builds, and every piece of content he creates, there's one massive dream driving him forward: owning the New York Jets. Now let's pause for a second, just right there. Owning an NFL team isn't like buying a nice car or going to an amazing vacation, right? Or buying a vacation house. It's not a typical entrepreneur goal. The New York Jets are $1 billion franchise. Ownership isn't just about money. It's about power, legacy, and influence. But to Gary, owning the Jets isn't about showing off wealth or status. It's about fulfilling a lifelong promise to himself. So let's talk about three things: why owning the Jets became Gary's North Star, how this dream influences every decision he makes, and the power of having a Jets level goal in your life. So Gary's dream of owning the Jets isn't some recent fantasy. It goes all the way back to his childhood. When his family immigrated to the United States, they settled in New Jersey. Gary's dad worked tirelessly at the family liquor store, and money was always tight. But every Sunday, there was one thing: football. Gary fell in love with the New York Jets as a kid. The games became a ritual, a source of joy, and a symbol of the American dream for him. But here's where it gets really powerful. As a kid, Gary didn't dream of just watching the Jets win. He dreamed of owning the team. He decided early on that he would work hard, he would build businesses, and one day he would walk into the owner's box and say, "I did it." Now let's be clear, most people would hear this and laugh. They'd say, "Kid, owning an NFL team isn't for people like us." But Gary didn't let their doubts, become his reality. He locked onto his dream like a heat-seeking missile, and he said, "I'm not gonna let this go." So here's where things get interesting. Owning the Jets isn't some far-off goal for Gary. It's his North Star. It's the thing that keeps him focused, energized, and relentless, even when things get tough. Gary has built every business, made every investment, and created every piece of content with that North Star in mind. Wine Library was about building his foundation. VaynerMedia was about scaling his influence and financial power. Content creation is about building a personal brand that commands attention. and opportunities. But the North Star isn't about the Jets themselves. It's about the game of chasing something massive. So we've explored Gary's journey from a kid hustling baseball cards and lemonade stands to building Wine Library, a $60 million business. And we also have talked about his dream of owning the Jets and how that drives every single business decision. But let's not have Gary's story just be inspiring, something that we can admire, but let it be instructive. Let's take Gary's success and let's learn from it. What can we take away from this? So in this final section, as we start talking through this, let's break down the 3 key mindset shifts that Gary Vee lives by. Mindsets that you can adopt right now to make 2025 your most productive, fulfilling, and successful year yet. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Number 1, the number 1 mindset shift. Stop caring about other people's opinions. If there's one thing Gary Vee is known for, it's his absolute freedom from the opinions of others. And let me tell you, this isn't just a nice idea. It's essential if you want to dream big and chase your goals in 2025. Think about it. How many ideas have you killed because you were afraid of what your friends might think? How many dreams have you buried because someone called them unrealistic? Here's what Gary says: the opinions of others are the quickest way to kill your dreams. So the takeaway for 2025, stop making decisions based on fear of judgment. Post that video, start that business, share the idea. If people laugh, let them laugh, because at the end of the day, their opinions don't pay your bills. Gary said 1,000 times, nobody who's doing more than you will ever criticize you. It's always the people doing less. So this year, make it your goal to stop worrying about what others think and start doing what you know you need to do. Now, if there's one thing Gary Vaynerchuk preaches more than anything else, it's patience. It's patience. And so this mind shift number 2, focus on the long game. Now, I know patience isn't sexy. It's not exciting. It doesn't give you that quick dopamine hit. But you know what? It's necessary. Gary plays the long game in everything he does. With Wine Library, he wasn't looking for overnight success. He was building a brand. With VaynerMedia, he knew it would take years to earn the trust of Fortune 500 clients. With his dream of owning the Jets, he's been working toward it for decades. Gary often talks about people who give up too soon. They start a podcast, post 10 episodes, and then quit because they didn't see results. They start a business, hit a rough patch, and decide, well, I guess it wasn't meant for me. But here's the truth. Nothing worth having happens overnight. Let me repeat it. Nothing worth having happens overnight. Whether you're starting a YouTube channel, building a side hustle, or working toward a promotion at your job, you need to think in years, not weeks. When Gary started Wine Library TV, do you know how long it took before people started paying attention? He made 1,000 episodes. Day after day, week after week, he showed up. He showed up. No viral moment, no overnight success, just consistent execution. And eventually, the results came. Patience isn't about waiting. It's about working consistently while trusting that the results will come. And so the takeaway for 2025, this year, set your goals with a long-term mindset. Don't quit when you hit your first obstacle. Don't stop when the growth feels slow. Keep showing up. Keep executing. Because as Gary says, you can't lose if you don't quit. Remember that in 2025. Now let's move to the third mindset shift, happiness over hustle. Now, this last mindset shift might surprise you. When people think of Gary Vee, they think of hustle. the hustle culture, they think of long hours, grinding out and nonstop work. But here's the truth. Gary doesn't believe in hustle just for the sake of hustle. He believes in hustle for happiness. Gary has said countless times, if you hate what you're doing, you've already lost. Success isn't just about money. It's not about recognition. It's about waking up every morning and feeling excited about the work that you're going to do. Let me tell you something that Gary says often. If you're making $50,000 a year doing something you love, you're already winning. If you're making $5 million a year doing something you hate, you've already lost. Because no amount of money can buy back time. And time is the ultimate asset. So takeaways for 2025, this year ask yourself, does my work make me happy? Am I building something I'm proud of? Am I chasing someone else's definition of success or my own? Because the ultimate goal isn't just about being successful. It's about being fulfilled. And if you align your hustle with your happiness, every single day becomes a win. So there you have it, straight from Gary V's playbook himself, 3 mindset shifts that are going to help you dominate in 2025. Number 1, stop caring about other people's opinions. Number 2, focus on the long game. And number 3, prioritize happiness over hustle. Gary's success isn't magic, it's mindset. And the beautiful thing, the mindset is available to you right now. So as we step into 2025, let's dream big, execute relentlessly, and most importantly, enjoy every step of the journey. So thank you so much for joining me today. If this video inspired you, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And remember, this year isn't going to change your life. You are. So let's crush 2025 together, and I'll see you next time.